Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots and deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without a sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
Hey, real estate seeker. Welcome to the Overseas Property Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am proud to say this episode is brought to your earbuds courtesy of my friends at HomeAway. If you're a homeowner or a property manager and want to put your vacation rental in front of over 62 million travelers each month and earn incredible returns of up to $56,000 per year, then you must list it on the #1 vacation rental marketplace. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/rental to get started. I am thrilled to once again live Pura Vida when I sit down and speak with Tina Wallace from TS Water Sales and Marketing in Hakko, Costa Rica. And as always, we'll get the true story on the local real estate scene and have you coming away wanting to investigate its local property market further or cross it off your short list entirely and continue listening. Right now from Tina, you will learn what has recently happened in and around Hakko to cut drive time down significantly and what it means for the local real estate market. Reveals exactly what she recommends listeners consider today that will generate capital gains and healthy cash flows. Exposes different money strategies to consider when buying local real estate and explains how the majority of her clients use it to fund their purchases and much more. And don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Tina's contact details, links on buying or selling Hakko real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/35. Grab me some more lime for my mojito. Don't forget the mint and get ready for one of our best episodes yet. In case you can't tell, I'm excited. Let's get Tina on the phone. What's going on, Tina? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, straight from Hakko, Costa Rica, so we can get to know you personally. Tell us more about yourself and where your stomping grounds were before you ended up in Hakko.
Hey, Taylor. Nice to be speaking with you today. I'm originally from Vancouver, BC, Canada. I've been living in Costa Rica for 8 years now, so it's basically home. But I graduated from the University of BC in English Lit and then moved on to wholesale sales in the fashion industry. From there, I decided to write my real estate license, which I'm very happy I've done that. I joined McDonald Realty and was with them for about 6 years, primarily focused on higher end residential real estate properties. From there, I guess I was invited to work on some recreational properties throughout BC. I was enjoying doing that project marketing when I got a phone call from a Los Angeles-based marketing company to come and look at a large project in Dominical, Costa Rica, which is about 40 minutes south of Hakko. Once I was down looking at the site and was able to assess Costa Rica in general, I fell in love with the place, and needless to say, I was slated to be there for a year, and 8 years later, I'm still here.
So, Tina, I have to ask, we're in March. We have listeners from over 44 countries. What's the weather like today in Costa Rica?
It's warm. Costa Rica is humid. Right now in Hakko, we're sitting at about 98, 99 degrees. And if you add in the humidity factor, we're probably sitting at about 103 or 104. I'm not complaining, though. You know, you get up in the morning, it's absolutely spectacular. The sun shines all day. So I have nothing to complain about.
We are jealous, Tina, and so we can get a better idea of you professionally. Give us your brief resume leading up to TS Water Sales and Marketing.
Okay, well, you know, I was in real estate in Canada, and then once I was headhunted to come down and work in Dominical, the project was enormous. It was 1,500 acres. It was daunting. It was multiple products available. So I phoned a partner I'd worked with in Vancouver, and I said, please, will you come down and look at this because it's just too immense for me. He came down and assessed the development for 2 weeks. And after we sat and actually had a beer on the beach and reviewed the development in total, he said, I'm in. And so the two of us joined and collaborated and created TS Water Sales and Marketing.
So Tina, talk to me. We are looking at a map of Costa Rica. Can you give us a better idea of where Hakko is located?
We would be in the Central Pacific. So if you look on most maps, major landmarks, actually Hakko would be one. And then if you were to travel slightly south, you would see Manuel Antonio. And above us, you may see on the map slightly inland Oratina. But if you were looking in my area, we would be on the Central Pacific, which I personally think is the best area to live in this country.
So we fly into San Jose, and then we can take a drive out to Hakko, which is about 90 minutes or so. Is that correct?
Correct. The new highway went in about 2.5 years ago, and it's really made it easy. It's one of the reasons why I choose to live in Hakko. It's made it incredibly convenient to get up to the capital. And so from the airport, and with a private driver, you're down in about an hour and a half.
So, Tina, we are always fascinated to learn about which countries people have considered and why. Why don't we delve deeper into Costa Rica as a whole, and then why you chose Hakko in particular versus other popular Costa Rican locations?
To be honest, I hadn't done a lot of due diligence on Costa Rica before I arrived here. I did that upon arrival. I was absolutely taken by the country in total. I love ticos, this is the slang for Costa Ricans. The communities were fantastic. I loved the climate. And then when I arrived in Hakko after leaving our project in Dominical, it was basically where I decided I wanted to hang my hat and reside and continue to sell real estate for a number of reasons. Hakko, as we just discussed, is very close to the capital, so that if you're needing to go up and either pick people up, or if you're needing to get more things than perhaps some of the smaller communities can offer. We have, let's say, a Price Mart, which is your equivalent to a Costco in the US. If you want to go up to a major movie theater, a major mall, those are all located in San Jose. And it's sometimes nice to leave the beach and get a bit of a city feel. I also like Hakko because it's got a great mix of restaurants, bars, entertainment, and I've got nature all around me here. I consider myself a little bit of a surfer. The Central Pacific hosts some of the best surfing in the world. So traditionally, I would get up in the morning. I've got my dog. I hit the beach. I go for a surf. I come back. And with the numerous other outdoor activities I can do, be it hiking or even waterfall rappelling, stand-up paddleboard, I've got a great mix between work and fun. And I also like the direction in which this community is going. We've got some great developments. We've got some great people, and we've got some great people choosing to invest here. So Hakko's home for now.
Tina, before we move on, everybody that's visited Costa Rica or in Costa Rica says the famous phrase, pura vida. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means pure life. And it's a great way to, you'll find that most Costa Ricans and expats will finish off a sentence with pura vida. And it's basically it's not a thank you, but it's basically an acknowledgement of the great lifestyle that we lead here. And it truly is a pure life. Costa Rica's simple. It's, when I left Vancouver in the big city, I came here. It's a much quieter pace of life, but we benefit from that as a whole and as a community. It's very outdoorsy. The food is very, very healthy. And the people in general have come here to choose and live a quieter lifestyle. And I like that across the board. It's just, it's pura vida.
Absolutely fantastic. And Tina, we have gotten to know you both personally and professionally, reasons why you chose Costa Rica and why Hakko speaks to you. But get ready, because now it's time for us to pick your brain on the local real estate scene. And to get the juices flowing, we're going to do a quick round of what I like to call the real estate hot seat. We'll ask you 5 rapid fire questions, and you give me an answer in 15 seconds or less each. Tina, are you ready for the Hakko hot seat?
Let's do it.
All right. What currency is real estate priced in?
The majority is in US dollars. You'll find a percentage are actually listed in colones, which is the currency of Costa Rica. But I find most of those properties are being marketed to nationals.
Is owning property as a foreigner legal?
Totally. Here we've got fee simple, and we also have concession properties. They're very easy to acquire. We can either purchase individually with the purchaser's name, or many people choose to purchase via a corporation.
And you touched on it briefly. Can property be titled?
Absolutely. Each property that is titled here has what is called a folio real. And the best way for me to describe that, it's like a social security number on the properties. These numbers are assigned to each property and then registered with what you would call the Costa Rica land titles.
Can money flow in and out of Costa Rica easily, or are there currency restrictions?
There's no currency restrictions, and yes, it can. The only restrictions I think we would find anywhere these days are what the financial institutions are imposing, simply because of issues like money laundering, etc. Most financial institutions now are requiring to see some type of contract of purchase and sale with perhaps a letter from an attorney explaining how the funds will be utilized. Once the banks have accepted those documents, then the funds are transferred very, very easily.
And as listeners know, Tina, my number one question, what is your favorite local drink?
Okay, I'm lame. I like a mojito. It's a mojito, and that's actually Cuban. The only thing is I don't drink beer, and Costa Rica has two very famous beers, which is Pilsen and Imperial, and I'm just not a fan.
So, Tina, I'm going to put in one more question. You're from Canada. You've been in Costa Rica now for about 8 years, I think you said.
Correct.
Can you better explain how you think the cost of living is maybe today versus a few years ago, and then kind of the broad sense from Costa Rica versus Canada?
Well, I mean, I'm from Vancouver, which is incredibly expensive now, but I have seen the cost of living rise here in Costa Rica, particularly with food costs. That tends to be a fairly standard complaint from people living here. And also rentals are going up. So vacationers are finding when they arrive that, they've got budget, which is X, and they're now having to look at rentals at Y. And that's simply because the country has become more popular. I've found that we've got some new taxes being imposed on us, which we didn't have before. On overall, it's incredibly more affordable to live here than it is in Canada. But yes, prices are on the rise.
And then, Tina, do you follow the exchange rates from the Canadian dollar or else U.S. dollar versus Colony? Do you factor that in, or you've been living there so long now that you don't even think about that?
I don't even really think about it anymore, Taylor, but I know a lot of people do. I mean, the Colony is a fluctuating currency. And so particularly, I guess if I was looking at larger acquisitions, I would take that into account. But on a daily basis, no. And I mean, it's a kind of a 2-to-1 ratio. And that's what I say to most vacationers that are down here, just, on a daily basis, just to look at it that way.
Okay, Tina, you are off the Hakko hot seat, but it's time to zero in on the local real estate scene. Give us your brief synopsis on the Hakko real estate market over the last few years, where it is today, and then where you see it heading for the very near future.
Well, over the last few years, it's been abysmal, basically since 2008, where the market came to a virtual standstill. And I'm not saying that's just for Costa Rica. I'm saying that was a global issue. And so it was challenging here for sure. But in the last 15, 16 months, we've had about a 10% increase in sales. That's primarily in resales in the condo and housing market. But it's coming along. Slowly but surely. Rental revenue rental occupancies are at about 100%. And we're seeing a lot of conversions and sales from renters to actually full-time homeowners here. And that's helping. Bare land sales are also slowly on the rise, but that's more geared towards purchasers that are looking to live here full-time and relocate. It's slow. It's slow. I mean, construction's resumed. We've got 3 new towers going up in North Hakko. One is going to actually be a large casino. And the pre-sales are moving along too. And that's happening along down the coast, which is nice to see. One of the things I'm also witnessing is that we're seeing a lot of the Costa Rican nationals from San Jose coming down and choosing to invest on the beach. And that's really helped stimulate the economy here.
Well, Tina, you have us sold on Costa Rica as a destination, Hakko as a location, and then a Rosalie outlook within the near future. Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. I sure as heck don't. No one does. But that is why I think it's so vitally important to get on the ground insight from local real estate professionals. And yes, Tina, I just used the words local and on the ground in the same sentence to drive home a very important fact. You are not some newsletter writer who might spend a few days in Hakko and then send out emails with hot buys calling yourself a Costa Rica real estate guru. You are there in the trenches on a daily basis, dealing with local buyers, sellers, agents, lawyers, and every facet of the real estate business. Tina, break this down even further for us. Pretend you are Google Maps or Google Street View. What streets, neighborhoods, or parts of the city are we talking about in Hakko?
That's a fantastic question, Taylor, because Costa Rica is notorious for not having street signs. When I first moved here, if you were going to an office, they would say it was 50 meters south of the McDonald's. We've come along a little bit, and if you were looking at a Google map, I would suggest you look for Avenida Pastor Diaz, which is the main street that runs through Hakko. But we are, if you're talking in real estate language, we would divide the town into 3 quadrants, which is basically north, south, and central. North is where those towers are going up that I talked about. Central is where we have 2 pre-existing large towers where we're seeing some resales. Central is where most of the single family homes are. And South Hakko, which is where I live, kind of has some great mix of townhouses and condominiums. And there, if you were to Google map, you could look for either Calle Hidalgo or Calle Madrigal.
And then, Tina, I wanted to follow up on something. Your Spanish seems fantastic. A lot of people listening probably don't speak Spanish. Do you need to be fluent in Spanish in Costa Rica to get by?
No. If you're coming to vacation, not at all. The majority of Costa Ricans here you will find are bilingual a bit, and there's a lot of expats that are living here. If you're planning on doing business here, I would definitely suggest that you work on fluency. Obviously, I'm fluent, and you just get by easier. And I think that if you're coming down to vacation or if you're planning on spending a majority of time down here, you're just going to have a more enjoyable time in the country if you have some type of Spanish under your belt.
And then, Tina, I want to highlight one other thing you were talking about for Hakko. Would you consider it a large town, a small town? And I know it's about 90 minutes from San Jose. Do you have everything that you need in Hakko, or do you have to travel back to San Jose?
It would be considered in Costa Rica. Hakko would be considered a large town. It has everything I need. But when I mentioned that I go up to San Jose, in that if I want to get into kind of some of the fancier things or more basics, meaning going to a Costco or going to a Home Depot or going to an Office Depot, because perhaps I want to lower some costs on some purchases, or if I just want to go buy, I don't know, I want to go to a fancier restaurant, or I want to go buy a new pair of shoes for a function I have to go to, I would be more apt to go to San Jose. But on a daily basis, I have everything here. We have great grocery stores, great restaurants. I've got everything I need for my sports. I've got everything I need to have in my home. We've even got decent furniture stores here now. So I would say we're getting very close. I don't have to go to San Jose more than once a month.
So, Tina, back to real estate. And now that we have specific locations in mind, what types of properties do you recommend? And first, let me give you a few brief examples of what I'm talking about. Are we talking about buying pre-construction units for capital appreciation that we later flip? Are we talking about buying completed apartments, houses, or office spaces to generate rental income? Or are we talking about buying land to either sell as is or subdivide into smaller tracts? Tina, give us a better idea of what you are talking about today.
I'm not steering a lot of my clients into bare land. I find the market is really, really oversaturated here, and it's very, very difficult to resell dirt right now. The majority of my clients are coming down, and they're either looking for condos or homes or perhaps pre-construction. We've got different options in both of those areas. There's a couple of pre-construction projects that are going up that I have got a lot of faith in that I think are a great investment. I'm wary of using the word flip anymore just because the market is not the way it was before 2008. But do I think that there's some good pre-construction pricing out there? 100%. Do I see that there's some great properties available here to generate rental revenue? 100%. As I mentioned before, Hakko can be during high season at 100% occupancy. And I've got quite a few owners that are in our rental portfolio that are making some decent money off their properties these days.
So, Tina, before we transition to prices, what's your average clientele like? If they're coming from Canada or the States or some other country, do they live in Costa Rica full-time? Is it part-time? And then what's their age range?
My clients are ranging anywhere from 35 to 50 for the majority, and they would be primarily North Americans. they are looking for the most part to be coming down to use their properties anywhere from perhaps 3 to 6 months a year and wanting to generate rental revenue on the off season or their off months. And I would say that the majority, or not the majority, but a good percentage have a consideration in mind that they will ultimately be moving to Costa Rica full time in the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay, Tina, now I'm going to hit you up with a two-part question that I know everyone wants to know, and you have to give us a general range so we have some price points in mind. Here they are. Part one, what would be the price range of what we are talking about? Maybe give us a starting price point at the low end to a final price point at the high end. And Tina, just to clarify, I'm talking about total purchase price.
Right. Well, your 1 and 2 bedroom condos and homes right now, they're ranging from $190K to $400K. Although on some of the beachfront, the luxury condominiums that are available, and they're 3 bedroom plus, you're going to look at ranges from $500 to $800K.
And then why don't we transition to a part two? I know it's very tough, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What would be the cost per meter just for a general range?
General range, you're looking at about 1,200 to 4,000 meters squared.
And then, Tina, I'm curious, as a follow-up, what's the sweet spot? You said that you have quite a few people coming down age 35 to about 50 or so, spending 3 to 6 months in Costa Rica. What are they looking for? Beachfront, condos, single-family homes, that kind of thing.
That's varying. It's either condos because people want to be in developed communities where they can generate rental revenue through a property management program, or I've got people that actually want to purchase a single family home because ultimately they're looking to retire. The sweet spot right now on pricing, I'm finding the majority are coming down with a budget from $250,000 to $350,000.
Well, Tina, this is a question I like to call, what would sister do? My 40-something-year-old sister calls you up, says she has X amount of dollars to spend. You know, you can't let my sister down, Tina. Share with us 3 specific examples you would show her and explain why these make sense.
I think I would first start her off actually looking at a pre-construction opportunity that's called Hakko Walk. It's going to be right in central Hakko, but I think it's a really special new project because they're actually incorporating a new beach town, and they've got a long walk through town that is private, where they're going to incorporate things like a beach bar, areas to play tennis, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a fully developed community, and the price points are starting in the low 200s. And I think that's a very, very solid investment for someone like your sister, be it whether she's going to be looking for rental revenue or she's looking to perhaps be spending, a significant amount of time in Hakko, simply because of the amenity package and the location. If she was looking to buy something that she could move into immediately, there's some great resale opportunities, particularly, and I mean to say this, unfortunately, for some distressed buyers that are still here in the Hakko area. There's some excellent value in the condo market and in some of the single family homes where I think she should definitely take a look at some opportunities where there's some excellent value based on the price per square foot numbers I was giving you. And then if that wasn't working for her, I think the third place we'd go to, and it's actually about 15 minutes south of Hakko, is an area called Hermosa. And Hermosa has a lot of single family homes that generate excellent rental revenue. And I think for her, that would be another option depending on what she was looking at. It all depends on how long she's going to be here, what she's looking for. But I think we would definitely have a good selection of properties that she could look at, Hakko Walk being my number one.
Tina, we are laser focused on areas of Hakko. We know our starting price point. We have an idea of cost per meter. We have 3 specific examples good enough even for my sister. Now I have to ask an obvious question. How are we going to buy? Do we need to come in with all cash, or can we come in with a certain percentage down and get local financing from a bank or credit union?
Most of the transactions here you would call cash deals. Simply for an expat to arrive here and use a Costa Rican bank, the mortgage rates are exorbitant. On a positive, most of the sellers here are offering some type of private financing, and you'll find that those rates are equal, if not just slightly higher than North American bank rates. So my suggestion always is you have to look at your personal financing at home, see what works best, and maybe that's cash, maybe it's a line of credit, however you want to do it. And then we look at how we can purchase here most effectively. And I'm finding people are arriving with their financing already set in place, or we go to the sellers to look for financing.
So, Tina, why don't we pretend that you're looking at sellers for financing? Give us a typical scenario that might come about for a down payment and then as far as terms.
Okay. Most sellers here are looking for 25 to 30% down. That's standard. And I've seen rates ranging anywhere from 4 to 6%. And it really depends on the exit strategy on the mortgage, because all sellers are different, whether they're looking at a 5 or a 10-year. But those are kind of round numbers to give you. If you were going to go to a Bank of Costa Rica here, you'd be looking at rates anywhere from 8 to 11%.
And then do you actually have any clients that are non-Costa Ricans that go to a local bank to get financing?
No.
So they're either paying cash or else they might be getting seller financing on very specific properties.
Exactly. The banks here in Costa Rica, it's a laborious process to try and get financing here. You'd be waiting up to 120 days to get acceptance from a bank. And then you're going to be looking at those rates, which I mentioned, which are 8 to 11%. And for most clients, that's prohibitive.
Before we move on, I wanted to highlight something that you said a few questions ago, and that was a pre-construction buy. Could you talk more about the payment terms on a pre-construction buy?
We're usually looking at, they're very similar to, the North American market, is that we're usually looking at some type of deposit, which can be anywhere from kind of $5,000 to $10,000. And then there'll be a percentage that will be required upon groundbreaking. And then there'll be a percentage that will be required at what they call gray wall here, which is basically the walls. And then there'll be another percentage required at the roof. And then the final percentage will be required at closing. So once the developers reach a specific milestone, a client receives a letter that has been guaranteed by an engineer here that indeed the project is at that milestone. And at that point, my client or a client would then have to send in their deposit. And these funds are kept in escrow here. A familiar name might be like Stewart Title, or there's Costa Rica First Title and Trust. And those funds are kept there on behalf of the developer.
Okay, Tina, anyone who has ever owned real estate can tell you, you need to have a money exit strategy in place even before you buy. It's something what I like to call, where's the cheddar? You are buying the property to do what with it to make some money. So, Tina, where's my cheddar?
Well, you've got to buy smart, right? And so I still always say cheddar is location, location, location. Again, I will say that the rental revenue market here is incredibly strong. And so if that's what you're looking for, it's very important to come down and do your due diligence or utilize someone like myself down here in the market to give you the direction as to where I see good rental revenue opportunity. Because in purchasing a property that generates that, if you are looking for some type of exit strategy, it's always going to be easier when you can go to another client and say, look at what this property is generating.
So it sounds like the best strategy is to come to Hakko, sit down and speak with you, find properties that I might want to stay in for a few months out of the year, and then when I'm gone, rent those out as a vacation rental.
Correct.
Okay, Tina, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with us about Hakko Real Estate. We have heard about your journey, why you chose Costa Rica, exact areas of Hakko to focus on, price points to look out for, examples good enough even for my sister, a money strategy to purchase, and then what we might do with it after the fact to make some cheddar. Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. But before we do, share with us easy ways to get a hold of you, any parting advice you might want to share, and then let's say goodbye.
Okay, I'll quickly do my parting advice. First, you got to come down and visit the country. Costa Rica is amazing. Rent a car, explore. It's not big. Look at different areas. Come to the Central Pacific. It's my favorite. And get a flavor of the real estate if that's something that you're looking for. Take the time to contact myself or, there's lots of great individuals, but obviously I'd love it if you'd contact me. I think Costa Rica is a great place to invest, and I stand behind the country. So if you can, and if you want to, you can reach me on my email, and that's at tina@tswater.ca. You can also contact me through my website, which is www.tswater.ca. My Skype name, which I may have to spell, but it's Teeny Weeny Wally, which is TEENYWEENY Wally. And you can always phone me on my cell phone, and that's 506-8331-1811.
Absolutely fantastic, Tina. I have really enjoyed this conversation straight from Hakko, Costa Rica to our earbuds, and I hope we can catch up again in 3 to 6 months.
Fantastic. I'd love to, Taylor. I hope I can shed some more light on the market in the future, and I hope I've been a bit of help today.
I want to thank Tina once again for taking us back to the CR and exposing why Hakko is such an attractive location for overseas lovers. Tina is one of the sharpest insiders we have had on the show yet, and I can't wait to get her back on the show again soon with more specific Hakko real estate investments she believes you need to hear about right now. If you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Tina's contact details, links on buying or selling Hakko real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/35. Listening to Tina has gotten you all excited about Hakko, and you want to start getting Costa Rican real estate listings via email. You want to be in the comfort of your home or office, and you want to see the property's pictures, details, and prices all at your fingertips. And of course, you want these completely free. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/35 and get signed up for our free property alert service for Costa Rica. And each time a property is listed by an owner, agent, or developer, you get them via email. What are you waiting for? Head on over to irelpodcast.com/35 and get signed up.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.